森格出生在印度，他没有去过西藏，却从此要带领着流亡藏人找一条回家的路。面对近来多起的藏人自焚事件，说到这里，他显得有点激动。他说不鼓励激进的手段，但大家有必要理解的是，自焚者采取激进的手段，这背后的动机跟无奈。洛桑森格接受了一电视专访时，也向北京政府喊话：流亡政府不会消失，还要奋斗到最后一口气，直到成功争取藏人的自由为止。
My first name Lobsang means kind-hearted, so I'm a kind-hearted lion.
Kind-hearted, okay. So you won't hurt people, but very strong.
I will hurt if necessary, but normally I am kind-hearted.
Okay.
So I have maybe the strength of lion, but kind-hearted. That sounds good, right? We have freedom of speech, and we have a Tibetan saying, "Xingla zeba yuena, mila nundu yue," which means if there are some, let's say marks on trees, if you look at any tree bark, it's never smooth. As long as the tree bark is not smooth, there are always some scars, there are always some marks. People will have faults and weaknesses, and I'm just a human being with all the weaknesses, with all the faults, So I will be criticized, and Tibetan people are entitled to criticize. I always say this: I believe in democracy, and I believe in free speech. But I can't say I believe in free speech, but don't criticize me, or I will not accept you. It's part of the process. But some criticisms are fair, some are not. And listen to those which are fair, which are especially constructive. And which are not constructive, they're entitled to their views. And I have my right to ignore and move forward.
As your position, people would think that as a Tibetan, you have to know Tibet very well. But actually, there is one thing that you haven't been there before.
Yes.
Maybe because of the political situation, now you cannot go there, even in the future.
Yes.
So how do you take the judgments that people have this kind of doubt toward you?
Well, Jewish people didn't go to Israel for 2,000 years, but they are as Jewish as people living in Israel, historically speaking. I'm sure people in Taiwan also, many left for many reasons, and they were in exile and diaspora, but they were people of Taiwan as much as people who lived in Taiwan, you see. So I didn't choose to be born in exile. My parents were forced to go to exile, and I was born in exile. I didn't choose not to go to Tibet. I tried, but I was denied permission. Even though I was in Beijing, but I was not allowed to go, take 3 hours flight to go to Lhasa. And the reason they gave me was they don't have enough people to receive me.
But actually, they have 1.3 billion people, right?
Yes, yes. And you can see the reason is just so strong, so convincing now, you're right. Yeah. They didn't. So that's unfortunate. I am a Tibetan, and I should be entitled to visit Tibet. That's where my parents came from, That's my root is. And I think and talk and work for Tibet and Tibetan people all the time, and I should be allowed to visit Tibet. The fact that I was denied clearly shows how discriminatory the system is. On the one hand, same people will make the allegation, oh, he has never visited Tibet, so how can you talk about Tibet? On the other hand, they don't allow you to visit Tibet. They say they don't have enough people to receive me, So first they deny you permission to visit Tibet, then they say, you have not been to Tibet. So, you can clearly see where the fault lies, and the fault is with them, with the Chinese government, and the solution is also with them. If they really want me to see Tibet, they should allow me to see Tibet, and I would have seen it in 2005, but they denied. That's the unfortunate part.
Something people think will happen again is the self-immolation of Tibetans. And it's kind of very aggressive, and people have different opinions toward this kind of aggressive activity. For you, I know you declare not to do this kind of, sacrifice, but actually people regard it as a holy gesture to our nation, our country, as a Tibet. So do you have different opinions now, or you still hold the original idea of self-immolation?
Yeah, I think, self-immolation is a tragic form.
Yeah.
It is a very sad form. So as a human being, life is precious, and you don't want anyone to die like that, you see. So that's why the Tibet administration, us at least, the Kasha, we made several appeals and announcements and statements that we don't, not only encourage, we discourage drastic actions, including self-immolations, inside Tibet as well. And especially to Tibetans in free world, in exile. Because, in Tibet, why they're doing it is because there is no room for any form of protest. Hunger strike, rallies, demonstration, anything you do, paste a poster, Chinese authorities will come and arrest you, put you behind bars, and sometimes you get killed. So, but outside, we are in a free world. You can organize any form of demonstration, any kind of rallies, any kind of hunger strike also. We just had 3 hunger strike who sat for 30 days in New York in front of the United Nations. So when we have other avenues, we should use these avenues in the, at the optimum level and not resort to drastic actions like self-immolations. Self-immolation inside Tibet is because they're desperate. They have no other form of protest. Just this year, 8 Tibetans were shot dead and killed just for participating in peaceful demonstration. So that's why they're choosing these drastic actions. In exile, we don't. So that's why we made the appeal that not to resort to self-immolation, because at a human level, that's how we think. Now, as a Buddhist, when someone passes away, you pray for them. It doesn't matter whether you're Buddhist or not, you always pray for someone who dies. And as a Tibetan, you show solidarity because you kind of, they died for Tibetan people. So they died for us, our homeland and our people. So you show solidarity. So that's our stand. So as you said, this self-immolation is quite extreme. It's true. But one should know their motivation again is for Tibetan people. Their intention is not to harm anyone. So all the self-immolators, they have not harmed anyone. So it's a conscious, deliberate effort not to harm anyone. So, but the action is really tragic, so it's painful. So when you see it, it's very heart-wrenching. And especially me, when this news comes, it's always disturbing. But you can understand, they meant it for Tibet, and their precious life was sacrificed for Tibet. Given a choice, one always wish there are other forms of protest that could have been tried, but I can see inside Tibet, there is no room. Even if you participate in peaceful protest, you get shot. So yes, so this is where we are. So our stand hasn't changed. Us as the administration, we don't say organized protests, we don't say participate in protests, we don't say like that. It's for individuals and it's for organizations to decide. But whatever they decide, we have issued kind of directives / appeal that any protest, whether you're a participant or organizer, has to be peaceful, legal, and with dignity. Peaceful because we believe in nonviolence. So any form of protest has to be peaceful, and legal because you have to abide by the law. If you don't, then first of all you will end up in trouble yourself, and secondarily, in the long term, the local authorities will be not so cooperative to your events and activities in the future if you start going against the law. And with dignity, because what we are aspiring for, what we are fighting for, is our Tibetan dignity. What we are saying is we have Tibetan identity and we have dignity, and the Chinese government ought to respect it. So once we are asking for, demanding our dignity, our protests should reflect the dignity. So that's why these are the 3 guiding principles, or guiding maybe principles that we have issued, and hopefully Tibetans will follow. Because the Chinese government, for some time, at least the hardliners, thought all along that Tibet issue will disappear when His Holiness the Dalai Lama is no more. That's what they believed. And that's what some say also. Now, His Holiness said, wait a second, I have a different idea. I want to transfer my political power to a democratically elected leader, and I've invested in democratic system. Now this democratic system will provide leadership and move the movement forward without depending on an individual. So that's what we have invested in. So if I complete next 5 years, it will be a clear signal to Beijing that we are here to stay, and we will stay as long as it takes to restore freedom for Tibetans. That message will be very clear. So in that sense, my job is simple: complete the 5 years time, because people elected me, you know, and then I represent and reflect people. So if I complete this 5 years, so hardliners in Beijing should pause and say, oh, we never thought of this. Wrong calculation. And we, the younger generation, is given this responsibility now. We will take forward the movement, make it stronger, make it more dynamic, make it more sustainable, and work towards restoring freedom for Tibetans and return of His Holiness Dalai Lama to Tibet. That we are committed. That we will work hard. That we will make it happen in our lifetime. And I am proud to be born a Tibetan, and I proudly die as Tibetan. While I live, I'll work very hard for Tibet and Tibetan people, so that just before I die, when I look back, I want to die without regrets. Regrets that I could have done something for Tibet and Tibetan people. So I have to die without regrets, which means I'll work hard for Tibet and Tibetan people, with or without any position. That I'm committed. So I'm here. So hopefully.
都你大王忍不起，马都换了。